Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association in BC. His website, icba.ca. Welcome back to the show, Jordan, and best of the season.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Jim, and to all your listeners. Appreciate the opportunity to espouse my worldviews and my concerns about where business is headed on your podcast this last year. It's been great.
And Jordan, on the serious side here, before we get into our annual Naughty and Nice list, how is the Construction and Independent Contractors Association holding up through this difficult time? Well,
you're right. It has been a difficult year. In some ways, it's accelerated things that we've always wanted to do but never had time to get around to. We've offered more online programs than ever before. We've trained more people this year than ever before, almost 4,500 directly trained. Our apprenticeship numbers, we have about 1,700 apprentices in our network now. We're the single largest sponsor of trades apprentices in BC. Our benefits program has grown as we try to help our members, deal with cost control and making sure that they're taking care of their workers. We're about to launch a new mental wellness program that I can talk more about next year. So it's been great. It's been hard though as well because 80% of our members are, small businesses of fewer than 10 employees. And these are the ones who are really squeezed the most, by this recession. They're the ones who have, they don't have the same amount of resources to deal with, changing public health alerts and, all the different things that, have come into place. So, we've been working very hard to equip them as best we can, to keep their spirits up, to find them savings wherever we can. Most have persevered through this year. Next year, 2021 is going to be a very difficult one for a lot of the economy. I don't think there's going to be I think we've seen most of the bounce back now, and this regaining this other ground is going to take time. But definitely proud of ICBA. Certainly proud of our employers who've been out there keeping their workers safe. And we keep coming back to one number. Only one case of COVID-19 in British Columbia has been traced to a construction site. And that is for an industry that never stopped in March, that was an essential service and continued on throughout it. Construction employers and workers, they understand safety, they understand how to take care of themselves and each other, and it's proved out in the WorkSafe numbers.
Yeah, I grew up in construction camps. I know safety is job one because it is such a dangerous job because you're dealing with massive amounts of material that, one slip and it can go horribly wrong. But also now there's the mental stress. So you're right to bring in a new mental health program. Because dealing with this, even if you're not suffering personally, you can see people around you who are.
You're exactly right. And, construction is a physical job. It's no secret that the opioid crisis has been especially concerning for, men aged 20 to 35, 20 to 40. Men who are self-medicating maybe because of an injury or trying to get through both emotional and physical issues. So, we want to break down the stigma of that. One thing I've been really impressed with, like you talk about a massive corporation doing good. Bell Canada, we have no affiliation with them, but the Let's Talk stuff they've done has been amazing. What sports have done, you hear about mental health issues now when you read The Athletic, when you read Sports Illustrated, when you go through all these, you see what's being done and, by organizations like the Canucks, by the BC Hockey League. And it's opened up this whole conversation that people were so afraid to have before. And now with COVID, like the mental wear and tear, even for, people who came into this incredibly healthy, the mental wear and tear is real, It needs to be talked about, and the only way we're going to get through this is together, dealing with these issues. So yeah, next year, very early on, we'll be launching, we're hoping to have thousands and thousands and thousands of our workers in these programs to discuss these issues, kick the daylights out of the last little bit of any kind of stigma that may exist around mental health, and instead get people linked to the healthy practices they need, and then for ones who need a little bit more help, getting them linked to that as well.
Are small businesses getting the help they need from both the federal and provincial governments?
Generally, no. I think for a lot of us doing our Christmas shopping right now, we're starting to notice there's a lot of small businesses that are shuttered. There's a lot of small businesses that are empty. I was talking to our president, Chris Gardner. His favorite restaurant is a home-owned business, or a business-owned called La Provence in Yaletown, right on the water, delicious food. Normally at Christmas time, it would be hopping. You wouldn't be able to get a table. He walked by last night on his evening walk at dinner time. One table was seated. And so that's a small business that is obviously struggling. And, government has done a lot. I don't think they've done enough. They're constantly changing the public health orders, which make it very difficult for these small businesses to adapt. Small businesses who, are sinking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into things like plexiglass and whatnot, then only to have the rules change a few weeks later. It's been difficult. And so, to small business owners out there, most of them, this is a grim Christmas. We're hoping next year will be better. The vaccines are coming. There's hope coming. We just got to do what we can to help them keep afloat until they can start to stand on their own feet again.
Sure. One of the victims here in New Westminster, tied up just around the corner from where I live, is the native paddle wheeler, plus a smaller boat, and they've had to close down maybe forever because of COVID, and they've been plying the waters of the Fraser River and entertaining people the last 30 years.
Yeah, I've been to a business company thing years ago, like 15 years ago, on that boat, a Christmas dinner and a little mini cruise kind of thing. And yeah, it's reaching across all sorts of avenues. My wife and I, as a weird side gig, we perform wedding ceremonies. We're religious reps, and normally we would do 30 to 40 weddings a year between the two of us. This year it's been more like 10, all very small. Hardly any of them with any kind of attachment to, a venue or an event plan or anything like that, or a caterer, or a DJ. So all of those folks, little bit, small business, side businesses, we don't know if they're coming back next year when weddings can be big again. So it's hard, it's painful. And all I can say is, God bless you, small business owners. If you're in construction, we're trying our best at ICBA. Broader economy, we're trying our best to represent your interests to the government, and hopefully this is the only bleak Christmas we have.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
Value from success. Growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, who is on your naughty list this year?
Well, I have a couple of entries on the naughty list this year, and the first is just a kind of a blanket general, all provincial and federal governments, and we'll specifically talk about British Columbia, but we are into historic, massive, earth-shifting deficits. at a time where, we had a balanced budget in British Columbia going into this, we're looking at maybe a $15 billion deficit, maybe as much as $20 billion. When you consider the fact that the entire provincial budget is only about $55 billion, that is a shocking, astounding amount of money. Federally, we're headed to a $1 trillion national debt. I haven't checked debtclock.ca, which is an amazing resource put out by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. We may already be at that trillion. If we're not, we're certainly trending there very, very, very quickly. And, obviously, we were in an unprecedented situation. We shut down the economy. Public health took priority, took precedence. But there is, you reap what you sow. And two things to think about. Before the pandemic, we clearly were not properly positioned or financed or ready to deal with a issue of this magnitude. Now, maybe you can never be. But, small businesses that have managed to survive through this, they're spending down their cushions. Like, they've been doing their best to stay afloat. Government did not do the same. The Trudeau government was running deficits of hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, even before the pandemic. And that erodes your opportunity to pivot when bad things happen. Provincial government was a little bit better. The NDP obviously took over a massive surplus left by the BC Liberals. In a minority situation, they dared not go into deficit because Andrew Weaver, for his many other faults, is a fiscal conservative who wanted a balanced budget. And that was part of the price of admission for his support. But now we're into this, we didn't squirrel money away. We certainly didn't stock up on PPE. Like, it was so bad in April that there are emails from the provincial government, the deputy minister, the premier, asking underlings to go under the desks of deserted government buildings, open the first aid kits for earthquakes, and pull out the N95 masks. That's how few N95 masks we had for frontline workers in those early days of this pandemic. That is not good enough. That is not being well prepared. So you have we weren't prepared equipment-wise, we weren't prepared economically, and now, we'll spend a generation, maybe generations, paying back this debt. All of this money comes due at some point. And, we're going to have to pay down that debt. It's tough. It's hard to understand how we could have been so poorly prepared for this.
What do you think about the Canadian Revenue Agency sending out notices to people right now saying, we think you didn't qualify for CERB, pay us back the money now?
Well,
instead of waiting until tax time, yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to claw back this money. Like, I'm of two minds. Like, first of all, could we have not set up the program better to make sure that generally only the people who need the money got it? There must have been a way to do that better. And this is where Ken Boozencool's, basically universal income idea might have had the better plan. But, they set out these rules, they turned a blind eye to, abuses that were being flagged, and now government's trying to claw it back. It'll be interesting to see how successful they can actually be in that, and how much time, energy, and money they're actually going to bother to put into it. CRA, think of offshore tax cheats and how little the CRA has done for decades on that file. And those are, tens of millions of dollars that if you could recover, hundreds of millions maybe, that if you recover, you'd be a lot, you'd pay off the investment. It's going to be a lot harder to try to claw back, $7,000 from this company or $11,000 from that one. The ROI is just not really there.
Also on your naughty list?
One more. I got to put Premier John Horgan on the naughty list here, and here's why. British Columbia had a very stable government regime in the summer of 2020. We had an official opposition led by Andrew Wilkinson who said, we're not going to do what oppositions typically do. We're not going to nitpick you on COVID policy. We're going to stand in support of it. It's important that we're all in this together. The Green Party, third party in the legislature, said the same thing. We're all going to stand up to this together. And lo and behold, in September, John Horgan decided to turn his back on unprecedented, strong support from all parties in a crisis situation. He turned his back on that and called a very selfish election. And since that election, several things have happened. COVID numbers have shot through the roof. He'd be the first to say, well, it's not tied to the election, but the election gave social license to people to relax as far as what they were doing, bubbling up and whatnot, because if the premier thinks it's safe enough to run an election, you just tend to relax. It delayed relief for small businesses, specifically for tourism businesses who still are just on their last legs here trying to survive 2020. It delayed the COVID cash. He's in the election campaign. He promised $500 per person for COVID. That money was in their budget and could have been handed out before any election. Instead, he's delayed it to, I guess you can start applying Friday. Maybe you'll get your check in time for Christmas, but it's a delay. And, this has delayed the pandemic pay for frontline healthcare workers. Government essentially shuts down for 10 weeks during an election cycle. And no one was processing pandemic pay for frontline nurses and doctors who, we need to keep happy and as healthy as possible. So all those different things, I don't know how you don't put John Horgan on the naughty list for putting his job, his pay package, his power ahead of all of these other priorities that British Columbia was facing.
Well, the disabled in BC were supposed to get a $300 benefit as well because of COVID. He's cut it to $150, saying I had to listen to voices around the cabinet table. A, doesn't he have the loudest voice? And B, who are those Grinches? Please name them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just one voice at the cabinet table, and essentially saying all these other guys are so mean ones, Mr. Grinch. No, sorry, John. You appointed all those people, and every single one of them would have buckled immediately if you had said, no, we're keeping the 300. Like, no one, this is not a hill that any sane cabinet minister is going to die on. Like, come on. So, that is just typical, we're all living in a bubble right now because, with our safe sixes and our households and whatnot. John Horgan's bubble seems to be a lot thicker than other people's. Nothing bad seems to happen in British Columbia in John Horgan's mind. And if it does happen if someone says something bad is happening, well, it's clearly someone else's fault. And, sorry, Premier, the buck stops with you. I don't understand. At a time where you're running like a $15 to $20 billion deficit, you're talking about $35 million a month that you're now nickel and diming by clawing back this help for the people who need it the most. Again, $20 billion deficit. $35 million a month. That is not, it's just crazy. It's crazy that's happened that way.
And this isn't the first time the NDP has clawed back benefits from the disabled. Back in the 90s, Ottawa added $800 a month to disabled checks, and these people were only making $700 a month from the BC government. And Ujjal Dosanjh clawed that money back, saying, I can provide those benefits to those people better than an extra $800 a month in cash can. So, the NDP might go along and say they're socialist, but when it comes to the most disabled and the least able to speak out for themselves, they don't seem to have a problem clawing back that money.
No, exactly. And, I thought the most instructive thing I read this week was a Rob Shaw piece in the Vancouver Sun where he interviewed some of these social development agencies who have normally, for 16 years were very tight allies of the NDP when they were upset with the BC Liberals. And now they're criticizing the NDP for being, in a way, even more heartless than, what the BC Liberals used to be perceived to be. So, these things have consequences for real people. And, for John Horgan to kind of slough it off on, I'm just one voice at the cabinet table. Come on, Premier. That's not the way that the system works in BC.
We'll have Jordan Bateman's nice list coming up.
Bateman Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Bateman's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at batemanresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Who's on top of your nice list for this year?
Well, I want to shout out to the cities and mayors who really went the extra mile for their small businesses during these bleakest times. And, some of them, generally smaller towns, who, sped up things like patio approvals, or basically said, we're just going to ignore our patio bylaw. Let's start building patios. I think Port Coquitlam actually sent people out, like city workers out to help build patios quickly to try to get restaurants through the spring and summer. There were places that went out and created small business lists. Like, here are the small businesses in our community that are open, and their hours. Here are their pickup details, and basically advertise them. There were mayors who, went above and beyond on their social media. Like, here's a business that's open. Like, I always believe that the best government is the government that's closest to the people. And a lot of these cities and municipalities showed that, they were willing to go the extra mile for their folks. And so, mayors like that should be thanked. Gabby Wickstrom, Brad West, Stu Young, mayors like that deserve a tip of the cap from taxpayers, for doing this right. And a special asterisk, a little bonus mention to the ones who then relooked at their own budgets as a city and have come in with very low or below the rate of inflation tax increases. That has been important too. You just can't continue to gouge, especially businesses, for more and more money at a time where they're just struggling to stay alive.
Burnaby City Council as well took a 10% pay cut and then donated that money to seniors.
Perfect. Exactly. So, it's heartening, right? We're all in this together, but it hasn't always felt that way from a lot of these senior government officials. But when you see those brass tacks, like, Burnaby City Council, we can do this. We know it's not going to solve everything, but if it helps, a few hundred seniors, we're willing to do it. Kudos to them for that.
And looking ahead to the new year, how about speeding up the building permit process?
Yeah, and that's exactly what should happen now. Like, let's not stop here. Let's go full tilted. Like, what bureaucracy can we do away with in order to help the economy come back quicker? Building permits. It takes longer to get a building permit in the city of Vancouver than it does to build the thing that you're getting the permit for. That is stupid. Like, by any measure, that is just plain stupid, that it would take longer to get a piece of paper saying you can build something than to actually build the thing that you have the piece of paper for. So, now is the time. Like, everything is on the table. What can you do? What can you automate? What can you do online? What can you do quicker? What costs can you reduce? Business licenses. There's a whole bunch of folks going out now to renew their business licenses, and they'll spend hundreds of dollars to do so. What if we just extended business licenses for a year? Like, if you had one last year, we're not going to do an inspection this year on you anyways because of COVID. Extend you for a year free. It's a revenue hit to the municipality, but think of what that does and what message it sends to your small business community. It's a few $100 to them, but, it's a message saying, hey, we're with you, we understand your concerns, and we're going to, fight to keep you alive in our community.
Mm-hmm. Who else on the nice list?
All right, one more on the nice list, and it actually kind of nicely comes back to who we were talking about at the very beginning. On the nice list are those small business owners who have hung in there through a year unlike any other. And I just can't say enough about the entrepreneurs of British Columbia, the small businesses, the employers, the family-owned businesses, the people who have sacrificed so much of their savings, their time, their energy to try to make sure that their business, their workers, and their customers remain safe. I know not all of them have made it out of this year. We stand with those ones and think about the losses to their family financially and the dreams and all of that. But I just think we need to tip our cap. Like, this was a year where things could have been even worse economically, and if it wasn't for small businesses gritting their teeth and saying, no, we're going to do this, we're going to persevere, I shudder to think where the BC economy would be.
And, of course, it seems to me governments ignore that over 70% of jobs in Canada are provided by small business.
Exactly. They didn't, the landlord tenant relief program was kind of stupid and didn't get a lot of uptake because it was so bureaucratic and didn't make a lot of sense. Small business persevered through that. The wage subsidy was great if you had an employee, but didn't really help you if you were, the only employee. Small businesses persevered through that. So these programs, the CERB kept incented some people towards when the economy started reopening, incented some people to stay home rather than work. Small business survived through that. The changing provincial health rules, masks, no masks, plexiglass, no plexiglass, 50 people, one person, they survived through that. Like, it is remarkable, the resilience of a small business owner and it's not something we should take for granted.
A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and yours, Jordan, your association, and to all the women and men who put on hard hats and steel toes every day to build our economy for the future.
Yes, thank you. And to all those out there who are listening, Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year, be safe, be smart, and let's hope that 2021 is much brighter.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. His website, icba.ca. If you have any questions for Jordan or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.